Hello everyone and welcome to another Grosso University webinar. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to invest in your business and your future. We got a very important webinar that we're going to be launching today. And to me, I think this is something that a lot of people need to spend a lot more time thinking about. So during the pandemic, of course, in 2020, a lot of people got blindsided with a reality check that made them realize that they weren't necessarily prepared for the future. Did you have the means to sell remotely? Were you embracing this new era of technology that is rapidly approaching us in the home improvement industry? And if things were to shut down again, are you going to be caught with your tail between your legs, or do you have the means to go ahead and continue with business as usual? So right now in the home improvement industry, those of you watching this webinar, there is a mass consolidation occurring in this industry, and the amount of money being invested in the home improvement industry is historic. It's almost like biblical in nature. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being poured in. Companies are being bought up left and right. And these big private equity firms, the big things they're investing in are technology and training. And of course, one of their priorities is going paperless, because they understand that this whole hybrid sales model, this whole concept of selling in-home but also offering virtual consultations is not going away. And if things were to shut down again, because a lot of people are getting comfortable again, if we were to get in a position where things shut down again, are you prepared and ready to go to have a virtual sales army continue to generate sales and revenue and have success in the business? So to really help us with this topic, I have a very important guest on the webinar today. And this is Tom with Leap, of course, owner, one of the founders of Leap. And we're going to be talking about, of course, how Leap can help you sell in-home more efficiently, sell remotely, and be that one platform for you to house all your documents, all your sales materials, your presentations, your financing, you name it, everything you need to streamline and be a more efficient contractor, whether you're selling in-home or virtually. And that's what we're talking about with this hybrid sales model. And those of you that don't know, Leap is by far the premier platform for you to go completely paperless and offer that remote or virtual consultation to your clients. So without further ado, we got the Dom and Tom show here today. So Tom, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to, of course, help inform the audience here and provide some golden nuggets. How's it going?
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. So Tom, if you don't mind, just go ahead and explain to our viewers a little bit about the background of Leap. You know, how long has Leap been around? What are some of the innovative things Leap is doing to essentially help contractors have that one platform, that one repository to run their entire business essentially in their sales division?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Personally, I've been in the industry 23 years, so I've seen a lot of this change, over the last a couple decades. And I've been in the software side the last 6-7 years. Leap actually got its start over a decade ago, believe it or not. The founder of Leap, the guy who created it, Steve Stencil, he actually a sales rep within a home improvement business, and started coding and built this application because he self-proclaimed was lazy. And so maybe some sales reps, myself included, can relate to that of wanting to find a more efficient way to conduct a sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so started to put together, this automation in ways that you wouldn't have to keep driving back to the office to, get an updated price sheet or grab the latest brochure of colors that are available and those type of things. And so created this application that allowed them to be much more efficient, have real-time pricing, not sell something that wasn't available. And so all these things started adding up, started building into this robust platform. And the other members of the sales team were like, boy, I need to have that. What are you doing that you're able to sell so much and so quickly and so efficiently? And so he started offering it to the other sales reps. And it's as it goes in this industry, with salespeople, they would jump and go to another company, and he'd say, the sales rep would be like, well, I don't want to go back to, carbon copy papers and, having to sit through 2-hour-long meetings just to get updated pricing and brochures and stuff. They said, forget this. How can I get this application I was using? And so that was really where Leap spun off and became its own company. And that was over 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago. And since then, tens of thousands of people have used this application to help them sell more efficiently, have streamlined processes, and provide automation, and allow them when something like a pandemic hits and folks have to go digital, it allows them to real quickly pivot and offer that in-home experience virtually.
Yeah, I can say, one of my pain points at the beginning of the pandemic, if I'm being totally transparent, the company I work for there in Mad City, we were not paperless. We were not set up to run remote consultations. So we literally had our sales team shut down off the road, and I was pinned in the corner because I was a sales leader at the time. I had to figure out how to make something happen so we can continue to keep the lights on, keep the doors open. So I locked myself in my basement for 3 weeks, a lot of sleepless nights, racking my brain. How can we crack the code on virtual? And a lot of that was building the foundation to go paperless. That was the big thing we were lacking. It took a long time. Obviously, if you don't have a support team like Leap does, if you're kind of on your own trying to build these things out, it can take a while. But we were not prepared. Take your sales team, for example. Whether you have 5 reps, 10 reps, 20 reps, or 50 reps, how much does that cost you if your sales team's off the road for 3 or 4 weeks, right? Because you don't have the means to run virtual consultations. It's devastating. So this is why, the big message I want to make sure people are hearing that I'm saying is we got to be proactive now that we've gotten that reality check. And again, a lot of people are getting back comfortable again, but they're realizing that the gravy train that we've been riding for the last year and a half, 2 years, for example, where business is booming in the home improvement industry, things are starting to dry up a little bit. Leads are becoming more difficult to acquire. We got to start being proactive and making a shift to embrace this paperless, this new virtual selling model, this hybrid sales model. And of course, there is no better platform than Leap to be able to offer that. So what I'm going to do, I got a simple presentation I put together for this webinar, and it's going to help us kind of go through a little bit about the Leap platform, but also the virtual sales process. So those of you watching this webinar, I hope you got your notepads out. Hopefully you got a good solid, have a couple extra pens, stretch your hands a little bit, because we're going to be diving in not only in terms of Leap, how Leap can help you run those virtual consultations or have that hybrid model in person or remote, but what exactly is that sales process? How do you reimagine in-home selling for the virtual world? Because Tom, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was talking to people that tried to run virtual leads. And one thing they kept telling me is you can't one-call close a virtual lead like you can an in-home appointment. And I get it, right? There's obstacles, there's barriers. But, maybe I'm too stubborn to believe that. I'm like, well, it's still the same human being. It's still a prospect. They still have a need, want, or desire for your products and services. What we need to do is reimagine the in-home sale for virtual. If you have a hard time selling in-home, you're going to suck at selling virtual. In order to sell virtual, you have to be more dialed in than ever before. And the reason why that message is important is because a lot of people took the opposite approach. Like, because I'm selling virtual and I can't hold the listener's attention very long, I'm going to shortcut the process. I had people telling me that their virtual consultations were only like 15, 20 minutes. And then they're wondering why they're not having high success closing the sale. Well, it's because you're shortcutting the process. So it's the opposite that's true. So what I found, Tom, when I was in the trenches running virtual appointments, and I'm really proud to say I was closing 40% one-call close, windows, baths, showers, siding, roofing, from my basement, selling virtually, remotely, from the comfort of my own home. It was absolutely mind-blowing once I figured this out.
Yeah, I think what gets in a lot of people's way is not the fact that thinking that they can't sell virtually. It's just not being prepared, and not having the things in place to be able to do it and to make that pivot. And whether we're going back to, or if we get to a place to where we're in having to do things remotely, you want to make sure you're prepared, because the time to do these things and adopt technology and be prepared is not when something shuts down or when you're forced to go remote. It's before that, and plan ahead of time, because we had a lot of people reach out to Leap, say, hey, we're scrambling, like we need to be digital. It's like, awesome, no problem, let's get you set up. But it's not an instant thing. You know what I mean? Like, these things take time to get prepared, to plan. You want to do an audit of your pricing. You want to make sure you have everything ready to go. So it's definitely something that you want to do ahead of time and be prepared for.
Well, is it safe to say if things shut down and you had like 100 companies come to you all at one time saying, I need this built now, out of desperation, that would probably make it a little bit longer for you to get that done? Because, Leap has a good, solid team, but obviously, if everyone's coming because they waited till the last minute, all in one shot, it's going to take longer for you to get that done when you truly need it. So take advantage of the time.
We saw a ton of success with people that were already leveraging Leap to sell in the home at the kitchen table, to then when they had to sell virtually, they were prepared. They were ready to go. They hit the ground running. There was no delay. They were just able to make that switch by, pulling up a Zoom or a Google Meets or whatever it may be that you're using to virtually present.
I talked about this during the pandemic. Matrix Home Solutions, of course, Nick Richmond, a partner at Grosso University, when things shut down there in the Chicagoland area, they were selling completely and utterly virtually, and they were netting almost $1 million a month selling virtually. And what that experience did is it forced the salespeople to sharpen the axe and become more polished and dialed in. So then when they got back into the home, the amount of sales revenue they're generating when the things started loosening up and the shutdown was over was absolutely record-setting. They were blowing the lid off the jar because these salespeople were so polished and dialed in from this virtual experience, right? That's a big takeaway from that whole story there. So, of course, a special thanks to Leap. They are one of our gold sponsors at Grosso University. And because of sponsors like Leap, we're able to put on this Agoge Summit. So those of you that don't know, October 4th and 5th in Sanibel, Florida, Grosso University is going to be joined by Leap for our first annual Agoge Summit. Now, a lot of people are like, what the heck does Agoge mean? So, of course, if you know Grosso University, the Spartan warrior, that warrior mentality, that's really the foundation of everything we train. We build sales warriors, sales leaders that are, again, like warriors. The Agoge is the educational system that Spartans were essentially raised in from 7 years old to 30 years old, where they learned to become the most tenacious and badass combat fighters in the history of mankind. So we're carrying that theme because we want to turn you into the most badass home improvement company where this is literally your profession. You're going to dominate the competition. So we're going to be talking about a lot of things to run a more profitable business, securing legacy wealth, building that sales training platform, leveraging technologies like Leap to go paperless, how you can use that for virtual selling. We got a lot of amazing content. I just want to play a quick promo on the Agoge Summit so that everyone here knows what to anticipate. And then stay tuned at the end of the webinar. We're going to have a very strong call to action, of course, by taking advantage of the offer from Leap, getting started to go paperless. It's only going to save you money and help your business grow, but we're also going to offer a really amazing offering at the end of this webinar. So stay tuned for that.
Thousands of years ago, and some say to this day, one war training remained supreme. This was the Spartan Agoge. The Agoge was a brutal method designed to bond the brothers in war and train them beyond any expectations man could imagine. Today, Grosso University embodies this idea in their training and has developed the world's first ever Agoge Summit. Join us to transform yourself into a successful and respected leader.
So as you can see there, we've got a lot of amazing content we're going to be covering, but kind of diving in, the topics of this webinar, of course, how can you get set up and get prepared? And of course on here it says being prepared for the worst. It's not just being prepared for the worst. It's being prepared for the future and the direction it's going. So Tom, you and I were talking before this webinar, and this is stuff that just tells me the direction this industry is going. So I was down at a Goldman Sachs event in Austin, Texas, and they're talking about technology and how that's going to be one of their primary focuses, it's going paperless, embracing artificial intelligence, things like that. But they're talking about these companies that sell 100% using virtual reality. So when they set an appointment with a client, they mail them a VR headset, an Oculus, and whether they're doing a basement or design build kitchen, they design that kitchen, they do the whole presentation using virtual reality, and the client is able to walk through and experience their new kitchen before they buy it. Try to beat that in person. Like, how do you compete with that, right?
Yeah, it makes me want to get an estimate, and I don't even own.
Right.
Like, I want to experience that.
Yeah, so that's next level, right? But that's the way the industry's going. So of course, step one, let's make sure we have the means to go paperless and have the platform to sell remotely. That's of course a whole different evolution. Some companies are just crushing it using that type of technology. What does that onboarding process look like, right? So a company comes to you and says, hey, I'm ready to take the leap and go paperless. So what does that process look like? Of course, you got the really amazing dashboard here. Take us kind of on a brief walkthrough on what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked. It was something that we've actually revamped recently where, what had historically happened is, you'd sign up with Leap and we'd help you set up your account. That means, get all your pricing in there, set up your contracts, your proposals, whatever documents you want, load in all your resources, and do all the configuration of, your CRM and your measurement providers and your lenders and your payment processing and all those type of things. We've recently moved to a place to where we're going to do all that work for you. And so what we ask you is, we jump on a call, we understand your business and what you're selling and what you're looking to get out of the platform. And then we ask, say, send us your pricing sheets, send us your contracts, send us your proposal, send us whatever documents you want. Let us know what resources you want your sales team equipped with, and let us go to work. And so we'll go to work, we'll build out that account, and we'll do some testing with you, as we go. And then at the end, we'll teach you how to use it, how to maintain it. You want to go in there and change a color or update a pricing or remove a product, those type of things. We don't want you handcuffed to our team to make those changes. We want to empower you so that you're able to go in there, make that change, click refresh, and now everybody on your team has the most, up-to-date pricing and offerings. But really, it's a consultative thing. We work with you, we build it out, we test it, and then you're live, you're ready to go. We'll even help train your team.
Yeah, the value of that is out of this world, because that's the number one objection I hear, Tom, when people talk about going paperless, is I don't have the time to build it out. And you think of, let's say I had one of my leadership, or an admin assistant or whatever, uploading all of this stuff on their own. How much money does that cost you to pay that person to spend all that time? Some cases it took months and months for some of these people, right? So now you having that support team, it saves so much money for these companies. It makes that whole onboarding process way more streamlined and polished. And then the finished platform, of course, is going to work properly. It's going to be legendary. And then you give them the autonomy to make any edits, fine-tuning, and adjustments, and the training so they can continue to grow and develop it as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, you're assigned an onboarding specialist, an account manager, you've got an account executive, and you got a full team, that's here for you and that's going to make sure that you're successful with the platform.
This is branded for Leap. This is a Leap webinar. But at the same time, when they onboard this can be branded for that company, right? So it's essentially, it looks like their individual proprietary platform to make this happen. Yeah, and this is all about, getting prepared for lead running, right? So of course, you got a lot of tabs on the left-hand side. Leap, at this point in the game, is the leader in technology and integrates with damn near everything in the planet Earth. That's one thing I've been highly impressed with you guys, especially in the last few years. There's really very few technologies or companies at this point that you don't integrate with. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, we want to make this as streamlined and easy and efficient as possible. So, whatever CRM you're using, whatever measurement providers you're using, whatever lenders you're using, we want to integrate with them. And we have to make it as easy as possible for you, for that sales rep to have one place to go. They can do everything. Business has visibility. And it's just a really streamlined and automated approach.
Yeah, and that's what I spent a lot of time doing, kind of getting set up for a day of lead running for virtual selling or in-home selling. It doesn't really matter. But getting that client portfolio built out, getting all their information, doing some due diligence. You can get all the specs and measurements, whether you use Eagle View or Hover. So you can literally have everything you need, even down to what the pricing is going to be ahead of time. So you are prepared, ready in advance, and ready to make it happen. And the thing is, of course, doing things on paper. What's the legibility like of your sales rep's handwriting? I can't tell you, I mean, how many times we had grammatical errors, salespeople missed things, they sold things off the menu when we were doing paper contracts. All the mistakes and production backlogs and errors, having a paperless system obviously is going to dramatically clean that up. You have very clear and defined menus in terms of what you offer, what you don't offer. So it makes it real easy to hold your salespeople accountable for having clean paperwork, for selling things that, of course, your production team has the means to scale. Make sure they're selling profitably. Of course, the pricing structure, the way it's all built out in here, it just makes the whole experience way more streamlined and minimizes the pulling out of the hair after the fact.
And Dominic, I'm glad you said that. What you have on the screen here too with like sale and no sale, I mean, this is giving instant visibility to the business as to the result or disposition of that appointment. So there is no guessing of, was a job sold, was it not sold, what price was offered, did it get financed, did they pay with a credit card, did they pay with check? I mean, all of that visibility the business has, and it makes it super easy for a sales rep. The last thing you want to do as a sales rep is spend time doing paperwork. Like, you want to sell. That's what you're getting paid for, right? And so Leap takes a lot of that, data entry and manual work, the things that a sales rep doesn't like to do. It takes that out of their hands and just automates those type of things.
Yeah, because, I mean, it wasn't uncommon where I would close a sale, right? We would get the handshake, everything was good to go. Then we're spending another 30, 40 minutes between all the paperwork, getting the financing process and approved. It's just, the stack of paperwork was like that thick. Of course, having all that stuff now integrated and built in. And of course, going paperless, we had this policy when we were doing things on the carbon copy, old school, where sales reps had to physically turn in their paperwork by 10 a.m. the following morning. Physically turn it in. So how inefficient is that for the salesperson? So driving across town to turn in his paperwork early in the morning before he goes to run his leads. So everything here is instantaneous. It's way more streamlined. And of course, building in their specific products and services. So we got a good example here. When I was virtual selling, going paperless, it made it easy to do combo sales. So if I'm selling windows and bass, I can price out both. They're built in. We can put them into one proposal. And of course, how much more professional does this come off? Whether you're selling virtual or in the home, having everything on a digital platform like this.
And Dominic, it's funny, I talked to a sales rep just a couple of days ago that has been using Leap for several years. But he mentioned, like, same thing you said, he had to have the paperwork in by 10 a.m. And he said, he lives an hour and a half away from the office. And he's like, if I have an appointment where I live the next morning, like, there were times where I would literally take that paperwork and go to the UPS store and mail it in because I didn't want to drive, back and forth to the office.
Right.
And so when you think about adopting, software and solutions that are going to save you time like that, it's important to consider that too, right? There's an opportunity cost. There's the cost of having to do these things manually. So it just makes it way more efficient.
Well, and there's things that salespeople are doing that, and obviously I'm not going to name drop anybody, but I see companies out there that are still doing things on paper where they're taking pictures of the checks and the credit card slips and the contracts and all the customer's personal information's on there. And then they're emailing a picture of it to the office, to the admin. I'm like, that's really not a very secure way of doing business. I'm sure your customers would appreciate more security when they do transactions, right?
Yeah, and Leap helps you, level 1 PCI compliance is huge. So not writing down, that information on a piece of paper and calling it in or texting it. That's just, it's, if anybody's watching this that is in that field of business, they're like, no.
Yeah, that can be a lawsuit waiting to happen too. You got to be very careful. And I'd say, more than ever before, people are sensitive about giving out their personal information. They're sensitive about security, of course. Internet hacking and all this stuff, getting their credit hacked into, their credit card stolen. So again, having that security alone is worth its weight in gold. But this is some of the stuff that your team's going to help with, right? So any sales tools, any marketing collateral, even linking different things like Company Cam or your YouTube channel. So you really help make sure this thing's robust. It has everything they need to fully consummate the sale and even sell the job. But yeah, so again, this is just a really great example. A company that is diverse, offers different products and services. You build that all right in, even before and after photos.
Dominic, one of the great things here too is like having the most up-to-date resources from a brochure standpoint and color availability, and just making sure that your sales team isn't using, last year's brochure or 3 years ago brochure because that's what they found under the seat of their truck. It's like this has all the most up-to-date stuff, and somebody back at the office is going in there and updating it, and you're not having to have your whole sales team come into the office and change out brochures and change out price sheets and get the most up-to-date stuff. Like everything is up to date here, and it's automatically refreshed. The sales team's got all of that information available to them.
Yeah, and one thing, of course, I talk about Engage a lot. I say, the best close in the world is a master presentation, and the best platform to deliver that master presentation is on Engage. And you don't even have to go on a separate app anymore. So Engage integrates with Leap, right? So you can you can actually deliver your Engage presentation without having to exit off of Leap and use the multiple apps.
That's right. Not to geek out, but there's a deep link integration there. It just opens up that presentation. You click the back button, and you're right back in Leap. So it provides a seamless experience even for the customer, right? They know you have your ducks in a row and you're efficient and using technology.
Yeah, because Rick Grosso, of course, back in the day used to talk often about chuck in the truck and layer with the ladder, the old school Bubba, right? That type of contractor is going to be extinct pretty soon. We're not going to be competing. I would say the competition is going to get more and more fierce as time goes on, because the way this consolidation is shaping up is the companies that are doing things the old school way essentially are going to get steamrolled and get pushed out of the industry, and the companies that are left are going to be, again, in a way, forced to adopt the latest technology and go paperless. It's just the evolution, the way it's going. And of course, a sales rep, we were talking about this before the webinar, even just organizational skills. How organized is your salesperson? You talked about picking up paperwork from underneath your chair, right? So if you asked your sales team right now to go find the contract or agreement, the carbon copy of a specific client, where's that stored? Where are they keeping their paperwork? How are they filing it away? Is it really organized? Or is it a crumpled up ball underneath their seat, right? So this is an example, as you were mentioning earlier, of a sales rep. Every appointment, every prospect, every sale, no sale, everything's organized specific to them and them alone, right?
Yeah, and nice thing here, what you're seeing is an integration with a CRM, and there's a number of them that we integrate, all industry leading CRMs, and you've got that sales reps appointments coming in, so they're right there for them. You've got a calendar view in there. You've got on the right hand side all the recent estimates. So again, if a customer calls you or a prospect calls you back from a week ago, you've got the estimate right there. You can run it, or the one from this morning, whatever it may be. You've got a history of your recent estimates. So a nice streamlined approach here to managing your day.
And of course, when these are Grosso University trained salespeople, it's going to be recent sales, not estimates, right? You're just going to be keeping track of your sales, because we're that one call close. We don't follow up, but obviously this alone is so important. I mean, I used to go along with a stack of carbon copy contracts that would blow your mind, and I actually used it as a sales tool, believe it or not. I would pull it out of my bag and set it out on the table and be like, oh, sorry, I keep forgetting to file this away. I'm just going to set this off to the side. And they'd see the huge pile of agreements, right? But it was good subliminal. But this is obviously way more efficient, more streamlined. And even for like following up on previous clients to upsell. How many times do you sell a job, let's say it's windows, and you did half the house or you did a partial? So you can have all that stuff documented, and you can have your own stream of follow-up, repeat business, referral. So again, having everything organized in this dashboard really makes that whole process way more organized. And having the integration with the CRM, of course, does that all for you. And this is what I love, of course, being an unbelievable closing tool. I still see salespeople, Tom, where they're going through financial terms and they're negotiating monthly investment programs on the back of a napkin, for God's sakes. So it's not very professional. So now if I'm going to make a big purchase, make a big investment, of course, having financial terms, the integrations you have with all these finance partners on a professional, computerized, digital dashboard like this, it seems a lot more legitimate to me. It doesn't seem nowhere near as shady, some like backyard, back of the woods negotiation, of course. So this is something that's really, again, going to set you apart from all the fly-by-night contractors that are out there. And it streamlines that whole process, right?
I mean, this is such a fantastic piece of the application. I mean, the ability to put in a purchase price and adjust a down payment to see what a different monthly payment might be. The ability to take all that customer information you've already entered, it's already in the system, and be able to have credit apps that are pre-filled, and you're just collecting a couple more pieces of information, submit, get real-time approval on that. It takes like 30 seconds, and you're going to know that customer has been approved, you're good to go. You can even complete loan docs and all those kind of things on here as well. But again, it keeps you in one place, and you're able to conduct everything you need to from right here.
Yeah, this makes it so effortless to assume the sale. And I say this often in my sales trainings. The more streamlined and simple you can make it for your prospects to move forward with your product or service, the higher probability you have of closing that sale. And this makes it effortless to go through financial terms, establish your deposit, of course, go through the different monthly investment programs, and ultimately assume the order. And within 2 minutes, boom, you got an application taken care of, all the paperwork's done, the customer, the office, your company, everyone's got everything they need to feel secure about the project. The fact that people have this available and aren't utilizing it kind of blows my mind, to be honest with you. Because this will boost closing rates instantly. I mean, your conversion rate is going to be significantly enhanced.
To your point, we see something, around 80-85% of people don't take advantage of lender integrations and using those lenders. So it's definitely something that there's a lot of room for growth within our industry to leverage the ability to offer those.
Yeah, I did a whole webinar recently on leveraging financing to grow your business. When I was doing sales training, I would spend 4 days, I'm not even joking, 4 days just on the art of selling financing in the house and using financing as a boomerang to the sale. Because that's how important that is. And of course, having the platform integration like Leap does, that makes that whole process even more masterful and streamlined.
Yeah, if you didn't see your lender on there, don't worry, we integrate with about 15 different lenders, so there's a good chance that we integrate with the lender that you use.
Yeah, and if you don't have a really good lending partner, of course, reach out to us. We got some exclusive partnerships and finance rate sheets where literally it'll take your business to the next level. I think about this, Tom, 85% of people that buy automobiles finance it, even people that buy Mercedes-Benz and BMW. Yeah. And that's up 10% from 2009. So a 10% increase. More people are financing than ever before. So if you only have 20% or less of your business coming from financing, you're missing out on a whole ocean. I did a little due diligence on this. Tom, take a wild guess. What percentage of the population can afford a $10,000 home improvement project?
Oh, man, my guess is somewhere less than 1-2%. Something small, right?
It's between 4 and 5%, surprisingly. That's actually higher than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. But what that tells me is most of the people watching this, I'm sure your average sale is $10,000 or more. A lot of them are, right? That's not uncommon. What that means is 95% of the people that could buy your product would have to finance it. Bottom line, that just is what it is, right? It's only going to get more and more prevalent as time goes on. And of course, the electronic signature, it makes it really, really simple to close a sale. And people are used to this these days, right? I mean, I just went to this place here in Sun Prairie called Gray's Coffee Shop. I buy my coffee, they put the iPad in front of my face, and they have the little tip button, which is a really clever business model, by the way. Effortless. I'd say my finger, put my authorization on there, boom, I make the purchase. So this is, again, the same thing that you're providing here for the sales pros.
Yeah, and Dom, I'll say too, where this is really advantageous is, not only can you do it by squiggling on the iPad, right, but you can do this remotely too. So you see like a sign there button on there. We've built a native function within Leap that allows you to capture a remote signature either via email or, get this, via text. So either way, either or both, right? There's no excuses for I can't find that document in my 3,000 emails. It's in your text, and we know everybody clears their text messages out, right? So This will text that contract directly to them for signature.
So again, just a whole next level. I mean, just having this platform, this foundation, it's the way it needs to be in terms of, let's say you never sell virtual. It doesn't matter. The amount of grammatical errors, the amount of production mistakes, the amount of things that are mismeasured or misordered or misspoken, false promises, selling off the menu. And again, the whole transparency and clarity that your company and your prospects now have, I'm assuming that's got to help with retention too. We had a lot of people that canceled historically because they couldn't read the freaking sales rep's paperwork. They look back at it the next day like, what did we even buy, right?
Or Dom, I don't know if you've ever had this where, you get a contract signed and you realize you missed a spot where you need to get initials.
100%.
And you got to go back and get that. Well, with Leap, it's impossible to do that because you can't complete the document unless you've got, all your signatures and all your initials and all of that's complete. So you've got a document that's not only 100% legible and accurate, but it's also got all the initials and signatures that you need.
Prices are going up. Inflation is pretty prevalent no matter what you're talking about. You're talking about a dozen eggs, fuel. Things are very expensive, especially home improvement materials, things of that nature. So prices are going up. I've talked to a lot of contractors that just in the last year have raised their prices 20, 30%. How hard is it for you to go across the board if you don't have a platform like Leap and adjust all your prices and provide all your salespeople with a new retail price sheet that they can calculate off of? Whereas within Leap, you can build in those price increases automatically. It automatically populates that to your team, makes that adjustment. And tell me what you think about this, Tom, but I'm talking to some contractors that just have it built in automatically where they increase their price 1 or 2% every month or every other month, just automatically.
Yeah, I was talking to an owner the other day, and he's at dinner and increases, adds a 1% increase to his prices across the board, right, and puts his phone down and he's done. I mean, it takes 5 seconds to go in there and do it. And not only that, but whether he's got 2 people selling or 300 people selling, they've all got the most up-to-date pricing.
Yeah, that's important because obviously it demoralizes a sales team if you don't do a price increase and then by the time you get around to it, let's say you do it once a year. Oh, by the way, guys, everything's going up 30% this year. And they're just hit with this massive pile of price increases. It's really hard for them psychologically to handle that. Whereas if you gradually increase your price, whether it be once a month, every other month or quarter, it gradually conditions that sales team to, again, sell at that higher price tag. So it's a lot better way.
And imagine the psychology of if I'm a sales rep and I don't even know that there was a price increase. I'm just, I'm picking out the things that this customer wants, and this is the price. I'm not working off of a worksheet. This is, it's like going to the grocery store. And can you imagine if you put everything on the conveyor belt and you start scanning each item one by one, and the cashier's just like, it'll be $150. You're like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same with Leap. It's like, hey, this is the price, right? It's what's on my iPad. You're seeing all the things.
I talk about our sales methodology. This is our Grosso University 11-step sales process. I called it a hybrid sales process because whether you're selling virtually or selling in the home, the system reigns supreme. The system remains consistent. Now, there are things that I reimagine, of course, preparation being an important element of the whole sales platform we're talking about. I talk about preparation at length because part of that is getting set up to be paperless and have the means to sell remotely. I talk to a lot of contractors right now. They're having a hard time generating leads. And I asked them, I'm like, are you advertising that you offer virtual consultations? Because I think a lot of people underestimate how many people are psychologically in a bad shape right now from this pandemic still. And the last thing they would ever want is to have somebody come in their house right now. So if you're not offering virtual consultations, what percentage of the population are you bypassing? Now you can always lead with in-home, but if you don't have that virtual option to fall back on, I'm telling you, that's hindering your ability to garner leads, right? And just think of it, it's a lot easier, isn't it? I mean, more people, even grandma these days knows how to use Zoom. That's one of the blessings of this whole thing, to communicate with their grandkids and stuff like that. So it's more convenient for them and for you, right? I just want to show it can be done. So this is actually very interesting. When I was one call closing, bathrooms, windows, all this stuff, this is a 4.5-hour bath lead where I one call close a $13,000 shower from the customer's cell phone. So they were literally just watching me on their iPhone the whole time, going through my master presentation. You can see going through Engage. And one thing I spend a great deal of time doing is, okay, the elements where I'm getting them physically and mentally involved and putting samples and supplies into their hands, right? How can I reimagine that virtually? So you can see I'm going through the design. This was a tough one too. You see me filling out the agreement. That's a good sign. And then, of course, the end result is a very happy Dominic Caminata because I successfully sold a $13,000 shower, one call close, off of a cell phone. If I were to spend 3 hours selling in a home, that same prospect would take me 3.5 hours to sell virtually. And the reason why I say that is because you don't have the environment, you don't have all the things you can, again, adapt to be a chameleon. You have to be more systematic and more dialed in than ever before to have success selling virtually. It's just the way it is. It's the opposite of what people think, Tom. A lot of people think because it's virtual, I can only hold the listener's attention for 10, 15 minutes. I'm just going to shortcut the hell out of this, and we're just going to play the follow-up game for a couple months, right? So I took the exact opposite approach. And one of my success stories was an epiphany moment. It was a $14,000 window sale. And before the pandemic, these customers had two other companies that came out physically to show them their samples, do a whole masterful presentation, and the customer was actually able to touch and feel their windows. Now, I was unable to get into their house physically because that's when the shutdown took place. So they had two in-home and then me as their virtual estimate. At the end of the appointment, they paid $3,000 more for our windows, and the wife said, "This is the best window I've ever seen." And I never once set foot in the house. They never saw a window. They were able to touch and feel the other windows. But that just shows you that with the right sales process and that masterful presentation, you can actually still build the same amount or more value than other companies can, even when they're there physically. Of course, preparation, some of the things you can do with Leap, of course, getting everything ready for a day of lead running, getting all the client's information. Now, when you're selling virtually, I don't know how you feel about this, but everything was fair game. I would be looking these people up on social media, trying to build a customer profile, figure out who their friends are. Do we have any common connections or different things I see them partying or traveling or whatever? I want to get to know these people before I get on this virtual call because I need to be able to leverage everything I can. I don't know if you see that a lot from the people you talk to where they're actually going on social media and looking up their clients. But I found that to be a very valuable tool for my research.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of that happening. It helps to build a good rapport with them, and maybe your kids go to the same school, or you went to that school, or you build a commonality
So one of them that happened, Tom, is I was looking it up on social media, and I found out that my best friend was close friends with this individual I was about to meet with, the prospect. So of course I had to be eloquent and kind of tiptoe around bringing that up. But, just throughout the conversation, organically brought up my best friend's name. And sure enough, boom, right away we had instant rapport, hitting it off, and that guy wouldn't imagine doing business with anybody else. Now, part of preparation, how do you prepare for virtual consultations? So what I always did, and you can tell me your opinion on this, I actually had a full-blown green screen and light setup like you see displayed here. I had two lights because if you're doing any virtual background or green screen, it's important that you have even lighting. Now, you don't want to stand too close to the green screen. You want to position your body about 3 feet in front of it so you're not casting a shadow on the screen. It can distort the image. But why is a green screen important? I always had a virtual background behind me that was congruent to the product I was selling. So if I was selling a window lead, I had a beautiful picture of our windows displayed behind me, and it's implanting that imagery in their mind the whole time, right? If I was selling a shower, I had a beautiful picture of a gorgeous walk-in shower that we installed, and it was implanting that imagery the whole time. And I think that's very valuable. Now, think of the benefits of selling virtually. You can put a filter on to make yourself look better. Audio is more important than video quality. So let me repeat that. If you're selling virtual, audio is more important than video quality. So you watch a lot of podcasts, you're on a lot of podcasts, right? How hard is it to sit through a podcast when the audio is really tinny, really high pitch, and they don't have a quality audio set? So they say investing in a quality mic is actually more important than a quality camera. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't want distorted image, you don't want a really horrible camera, but we definitely recommend if you're going to be communicating with people, get a mic like Tom has there, get a wireless Sennheiser or something, make the investment. Now, when your salespeople are working with clients, you see, I like to stand up when I'm doing presentations because body language, right? Getting the energy behind what you're saying is important. But if you're not going to stand, because a lot of people are like, I'm not going to stand all day when I'm doing sales encounters, make sure if you have a desk or a table that they can see that there's a table there and that they can see your hands. If the customer can only see your head, if you're like this, really close up to the camera, psychologically, they have a hard time trusting that individual because they're like, what are the hands doing? What is he hiding from me, right? So psychologically, when they can see your hands, it helps with communication. It helps with getting the message across, the energy level, your body language, of course, getting the message across, but building trust and rapport, it's a huge element of that. So I actually had my scripts and my closes and a lot of my sales strategies right in front of me on the table as a reminder. So like when I'm going through the closing sequence, I had like my objection handling framework there. I literally had the scripts right in front of me and made it really easy for me, even if I'm not like the most polished salesperson, to deliver the process verbatim.
I think the only caveat to that is you don't want to make it appear like you're reading.
Correct.
Right. So you want to look at, if you need to look at it and you want to get a refresher, take a look at it, but then make sure you're looking back at the prospect.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, virtual selling is a little different animal, right? Because you're not able to look at the person in the eyes. And I think there's some companies that are trying to work on this. They're trying to make sure that the camera is like in the screen instead of above it. But you got to train yourself. You got to develop your peripheral awareness. Because in order for me to look the person in the eye, so when I'm talking to you right now, again, I got the camera recording over here, but I actually have to look above you at the camera above the screen to maintain eye contact. And just like an in-home consultation, eye contact matters. If I'm avoiding eye contact, it's going to hinder my ability to build trust, come off as confident. But I have to use my peripheral awareness to study their body language, their facial expressions as I'm communicating.
I think that's an important thing too. And I know a couple things that have worked well for me. First of all, on a Mac, I've got a little green light, where the camera is. So it's like I can look at the green light. But also I always put the other person's image right there underneath that, where the camera is. So I'm not looking down at the bottom left or the bottom right of my screen.
Yeah, so you got to be creative, but set it up. This is all part of that preparation, right? Getting your studio set up. Make sure you have good proper lighting. Make sure you're evenly lit so you're not, it looks like you're in a dark closet. And don't have, the dirty laundry in the background and stuff like that. Obviously you want to come off as a high-end professional. So I was selling from my own basement and nobody knew anything otherwise because I had the virtual background. It was absolutely professional, quality audio and lighting. And that's another reason why I had a high level of success in virtual selling. Now, of course, introductions. If I'm doing the introduction in person, of course, smiles go miles. We have an acronym that we talk about, Tom, called the SRLR acronym. It starts with smile, look them in the eye, repeat their name, and relax them. So same thing holds true for virtual selling. Again, the smile is the gateway to the soul. And I found that even when I was selling virtually, by putting a smile on, injecting humor, I was getting a smile in return. So don't forget that, because they say virtual selling has a tendency to delude us to believing that the relationship doesn't matter as much. And that's a very false belief. So you have to understand that that relationship matters just as much, if not even more, when you're selling virtually. And those strategies that I use are key to their emotions. I need to, again, be more dialed in on those things than ever before when selling virtually. So again, I always make sure that I arrive, get everything signed in, get all my technology up and running about 10 minutes early. So I'm not sitting there scrambling at the last second trying to get my lighting, my technology all up and running. Make sure my virtual background's looking pristine. Make sure the lighting is nice and even, the audio's coming in. But then delivering that introduction, the same intro that we use in the home is the same one that I use virtually, and it was just as impactful. And it made such a difference to keep them comfortable and relaxed. Now, what I did, I know Leap, you can integrate the needs assessment right into Leap, correct?
Yeah, yep. So all you're doing is just answering questions and it'll spit out a PDF for you.
Right. So whatever survey questions you have, so this is, of course, an example of an old paper version of a survey. But essentially, we can take all those powerful survey questions, and by we, I mean Leap, and upload those. So it makes that whole thing, again, way more streamlined and professional. And a lot of times I would screen share this with the customer as I'm going through it so they can see that when they're giving me information, I'm listening, that information is important to me. And I always tell my salespeople, write down as much as you can because that's leverage and ammunition you can use in the close later on. So you can refer back to what they said and what they told you. And of course, the survey being that roadmap to the sale is absolutely vital. So again, do you find that most of your clients build in a needs assessment right away, or is it a high percentage?
It is of ones that are companies that understand the value in it. They do it. I think there's an opportunity for a lot more to incorporate it.
Yeah. Yeah, so the survey truly is the roadmap to the sale. I always say if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And what I used to do is after a sales rep was done with their sales encounter, whether they sold it or not, I would have them turn in their survey. Because a lot of times you'll hear a salesperson tell you, I did everything I was supposed to. They just didn't buy, right? So they threw me out. Well, show me your survey. And a lot of times the survey was left blank, not to my surprise, right? So then you can hold them accountable and let them know that, of course, if they aren't able to establish that relationship, begin that discovery, and tailor their presentation accordingly, they're going to obviously run into that roadblock and a lot more objections in the close later on. So we have whole training sessions just on how to conduct a masterful survey, communication, the different types of personality types, whether you're going with the collaborative, analytical, or assertive type of client, how to be the chameleon in the house is so important. Now, Leap integrates with Hover, it integrates with Eagle View. What are some of the other big proposal tools that they have out there?
Yeah, so Hover, Eagle View, GAF Quick Measure, Roof Scope, and by Roof Scope, they've got Gutter Scope and Siding Scope and all those others. So those are the four measurement providers that we integrate with, and it pulls in not only measurements but also those nice PDF reports or 3D model with Hover, and it pulls in those images if you want to include them in a proposal or a contract, that type of thing.
Having this 3D imaging of their house, whether it be for their windows, for their roofing project, for siding, if you do the walls edition, for example, that was just another sales tool to set myself apart from the competition to show how prepared we are. Because I'd be taking them around a three-dimensional view of their house. Sometimes we take for granted these people haven't seen this before.
And it builds perceived value, in what you're offering. You're building that emotional, or you're keying in on that emotional aspect of buying, and it shows that you're buttoned up and you're not just out there, guessing at what measurements are and where things are. You're actually leveraging a third party, neutral source to gather this data.
So I want to talk about the inspection real quick, because a lot of people wonder, how do we get the measurements? Like, let's say I'm selling a bath or windows. How do we go about doing that? So what Matrix did, for example, is when they scheduled the lead with the prospective homeowner, they had this tutorial video that they emailed to them. It was just like a 1-minute quick hitting video, but what it did is it showed them how to measure the foundation of their basement, how to measure the wet area of their bathroom, and what measurements they need. So then before they even get on the call, the customer a lot of times already had that information established. But one thing salespeople need to understand is the more invested I get the prospect into the entire experience, the more likely they will be to invest in you, the more likely they would be to invest in me. So I always got the people up on their feet. Again, we can FaceTime on their phone, whatever it is, and had them go around and double check the measurements on the windows. They were opening and closing them. I had them inspect for damage and rot and deterioration. Same thing with the bathroom. Have them go in, turn the water on and off, get them invested, get them involved in the process. And you talk about keying to their emotions. It makes the whole thing more interactive, more exciting, more entertaining. And then I'm not just boring them to tears with a 3-hour lecture virtually, right? So don't be afraid to get them invested, but leverage the technology that's available. You can have most of the information you need to work up an accurate proposal and estimate before you even get there. So again, one of the big goals of the inspection is creating a sense of urgency. And that's why even if I have the measurements, that's great, but I still need to create a sense of urgency. So I actually had the customers take pictures of their wet area, take pictures of their windows and text them to me. And then we're texting back and forth, sharing information. We're basically best friends at this point, right? And that was a really great way. I could zoom in on those pictures. I could notate if there was mold or mildew, seal failure, breakage in the glass, or damage in the wet area or the siding. So get them invested. Don't be afraid to do that. It's going to pay off in dividends. And we're not going to get too much into the weeds, but again, put together a powerful company story. One thing I think is worth its weight in gold is if you can have a professionally filmed video, especially when you're selling virtually, that's like a really heartfelt about us video about your company that a sales rep can play, whether they sell in-home or virtually. We use it for both. that shows the key leadership of your business, how you're family oriented, how you treat your customers like family. Even with all the technology, we haven't lost that human touch. And again, our number one joy that we get is changing people's lives. So putting together a really powerful About Us video, everyone when they buy things, Tom, they play that positive and negative movie in their mind of all the wonderful things that could go right and all the things that could go wrong, right? So what we're doing is when you have a really powerful company story video and About Us, it helps that movie in their mind, that positive movie play, and it lowers their fear of making the wrong decision. And they get kind of like an inside behind the scenes of the people they're going to be working with if they decide to take the leap and give you their hard-earned money. Of course, when I was selling virtually, I leveraged things like Guild Quality. And again, we're not going to get too in-depth, but being able to pull up these reviews, I would go to their specific neighborhood, zoom in, and show, oh, look at all the houses we did around your area, right? And it's a really powerful way you can build a lot of clout and credibility. But without getting too far into that, the same power and impact I once had selling the company story in the house is the same impact I had selling virtually. Now, at the end of my company story, one thing I see missing a lot from salespeople, whether they sell in-home or virtually, is getting that major commitment from your prospect. So at the end of every company story, you can tell me what you think about this, Tom. I ended every company story the same. I said, John and Mary, are there any other questions you have about Grosso University I can answer for you? And of course, inevitably, they're like, no, you're very thorough. I say, I appreciate that. Can you appreciate now why thousands of families just like you have trusted Grosso University over everyone else? Oh yeah, Dominic, I appreciate that. Let me ask you one final question. This is most important for me. If we can show you a product you absolutely love, and I promise you will love it, and we can exceed your expectations on affordability, would we have earned the right to ask for your business? So whether you're selling in-home or virtually, I was able to get that commitment every time and even do like a virtual fist bump. I appreciate that. We're going to work really hard for you. And that's that customer's physical agreement, physical contract. But get that major commitment. I didn't allow my salespeople to move on and start talking about products until they got that commitment on the company. Because otherwise you're wasting your time, right? So now, in terms of the presentations, you know, when we're going through evolution, by the way, in our sales process, we have a step called evolution. This is our industry options section where we're essentially taking people through the different products and services the competition offers. And the goal here is to funnel it down to our product or nothing. But I'm used to putting things in their hands, right? So essentially all the things that I was used to doing in person, I basically reimagined that for doing it virtually, especially pertaining to the product demo. I'll show you, this is pretty cute here. So what I did is I made little videos of me actually going through the product presentation. This video is about the security of... When I was showing those videos to the clients, again, using things like Engage, this powerful technology, I was able to essentially do the same full-blown product demo, and they could watch it from the comfort of their own home. It was absolutely phenomenal. So the whole heat lamp demo, I just filmed that whole thing, and it had the same power and impact that it did when we were actually in the home. The formula of that master presentation, we talk about differentiate, what's in it for them, price condition, trial close exclusive. You can do the same thing virtually that you once did when you were in the house. And this is how I was having customers tell me after my virtual appointment, that's the best window I've ever seen because I did a masterful virtual presentation. Now, of course, the closing sequence, taking all of your paper agreements and doing all that through Leap now, being able to negotiate financial terms. We showed you that platform there where it integrates with your finance companies. But price delivery, financial terms, all that stuff is important. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about, I actually had this happen to me, Tom, where before I closed the sale, I emailed the proposal to the customer. So I emailed the proposal. And then within about 2 seconds after I emailed the proposal, they just shut the computer off and the conversation was over. So I can't emphasize this enough. If you're negotiating with a prospect virtually, screen share the proposal with them as you're negotiating. Only email it to them after you've closed the sale, because that's your leverage to keep the closing sequence going, keep the conversation going. Once the prospect has what they want in their hands, in their possession, it's very easy for them then to terminate the appointment. I don't know if you've heard about that with other companies, but that proposal is your leverage.
No, I hadn't heard of that. That's fascinating and interesting. It makes a lot of sense. And with Leap, obviously you can have that price up there and even adjust and play with some different things to get that customer to a place to where they're making that commitment.
So before you deliver any price, make sure your salespeople are doing a really robust feature and benefits overview. Human beings have very short memory, so they're not going to remember even 5-10% of the information. So recapping, rebuilding the benefits and the exclusives, and then do a proper price delivery. And then the closing sequence, I want to show you something kind of crazy. So we teach, one of my favorite scripts that we train on is qualification. And this is a script that was mandatory for my salespeople. I always told you that I should be able to wake you up from a dead sleep 10 years from now, pour some water on your face, shake you awake and say, give me qualification. And you could do it verbatim without thinking because it was so important. Now, I just want to show you, this is me on a virtual window appointment going through some of this qualification questions, and watch the response and reaction from this prospect. It's absolutely insane. And obviously this price on here, we have guaranteed for 1 year. I guess what type of timeline do you think you guys would be on for the project?
As soon as, anytime's fine,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's on your schedule.
Is that fascinating watching this?
And if you guys were to call, give us a shout back, you think it would be relatively soon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I really got the feeling you did fall in love with the EcoSky window.
Yes.
Okay.
Check.
And so far, based on everything we discussed and showed you, and I appreciate you doing this virtual appointment. It's been really great kind of going through this with you. But so far, do you feel that the EcoSky in Mad City is a product and company you feel comfortable with, the whole package deal?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I like, you're local per se because you are in Green Bay and you're Wisconsin and you're building them for Wisconsin.
Yep.
The climate here and stuff. So yeah.
So Mike, it really sounds like the big thing that would, if anything, that would prevent Mad City from working with you is the money, right?
Correct.
Okay. So if there's anything I could do to save you a substantial amount of money on these windows, you wouldn't get mad at me, right?
No.
All right. So we do have some programs available where we can save you a substantial amount of money. Now we want to make sure that we're saving as much money as we humanly can without sacrificing quality. Because one thing you can see we're really big on at Mad City is offering the best quality products we possibly can. So I'll just explain the program to you, Mike. If it's something you're comfortable with, that's great. Obviously, I'd love to be able to earn your business on the window project. And if you're not, that's fine too. You can simply say no, and I'll just go up to my bedroom and cry. So you get the idea. So now you look at selling virtually. I was funneling him down to affordability is the only thing standing in the way. And that's just how powerful it really is when you execute this process the right way. Is I don't care if you're in the house physically or remotely, the system reigns supreme, and you can follow it the exact same way and have the same level of impact and commitment. So again, that was a nice little 2-minute video there. But I just want to demonstrate the power of virtual selling when you have a platform like Leap, when you have a tried and true proven sales methodology that can be delivered. The close should be the natural conclusion more often than not, even selling virtually. So this hybrid model, right? How much business are you leaving on the table not being able to offer a virtual consultation? Whether they have fear or not, people just understand the convenience of it all. A lot of people are spending way more time using platforms like Zoom. Look at us right now. I mean, we're talking on a Zoom platform. I didn't know how to use Zoom before the pandemic at all. I mean, I didn't even know what the heck Zoom was. I thought it was the Mazda slogan, Zoom, Zoom. I'm like, I had no clue. But now it's just a way of life. Everyone's accustomed to it, right? Now, this is what I think, especially using Leap, it's worth its weight in gold, is a proper button-up. Because part of the reason people cancel, I always say the close is not the touchdown, the close is not the finish line. Closing the sale at best is getting it to the goal line, and punching it in for the score is doing a masterful button-up, tying up any loose ends. We had a lot of people, Tom, over the course of my career cancel because they couldn't find a certain document, the financing wasn't explained very good, there's something on the agreement that wasn't legible. The color things were missed, as you mentioned earlier. So having everything very clear, everything very polished and professional, it's easy to read and understand. They're not having to get a professional translator to figure out what the hell the sales rep wrote down. It's a marvelous tool for retention, in my opinion. I think it's one of the most important things you can do to retain your business. What are your thoughts on that?
You had mentioned, post-close, you're doing a lot of paperwork and you're having to make sure that these things get in the right hands. And we had talked earlier about, putting things resulting into a CRM. But also at the same time, what's happening within Leap is these documents, the ones you want to go to the homeowner, are just automatically going to the homeowner. So they're getting emailed to that homeowner, they're getting text, whatever it may be. So that homeowner has their copies and you're not having to do any additional work or remember to do that, or, accidentally you forget to do it. The rules are set in the background so that these things happen automatically. So you don't have to think twice about it and you could spend more time, selling.
The benefits of using Leap as your paperless platform, integrating your CRM, your finance companies, getting all your sales and marketing tools, your Engage presentation, everything you have in one platform is absolutely priceless in my opinion. And I definitely encourage everybody to take advantage of this. So we got a really cool webinar offering. Those of you that decide to go ahead and meet with Tom or meet with the Leap team, get onboarded, or at least have a conversation and have them explain how they can get you onboarded and the timeline involved. We're offering complimentary tickets to our Gogi Summit. And this is something that can literally transform your business in a very short period of time. Our goal is to make sure 2023 is a record year. All you have to do is use promo code LEAP when you get a ticket to our Gogi Summit, and we'll go ahead and make sure everyone has the link to register. But you can come meet the Dom and Tom show in person. So Leap's gonna be there, I'm gonna be there giving my extreme sales leadership speech. It's very, very powerful, very hard hitting. I'm gonna lay out the entire foundation for you to grow and scale your sales army. Again, whether you're selling in-home or virtually, you're gonna have all the tools you need to be the dominant powerhouse in your organization. So just make sure you take advantage of the offer. Now, of course, this is a pre-recording. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open it up for some live Q&A. We're gonna offer about 10 minutes. If you have any specific questions regarding virtual selling, Leap, the technology, some of the innovative things Leap is doing, make sure you ask those questions. You'll get them answered from Tom or myself, depending on what the question is. And Tom, I just wanna leave the last couple seconds to you. Is there any final words that you have for the audience, just in regards to Leap or some of the things that you can do to help them grow their business?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. This is a fantastic partnership, and I like to think of it as like salt and pepper. I mean, we just go together. These two things go together. As Dom said, I'm looking forward to being down there in Florida. So hopefully, everybody watching this is there. Come say hello. If you're not a Leap customer, I want to hook you up. If you are a Leap customer, I want to hook you up. So either way, come see me, say hello. I'm looking forward to getting down there.
Awesome. You're definitely going to get the hookup. So thank you, Tom, for taking time out of your day to do this amazing webinar. So very educational, informative. And I'm actually going to be pursuing getting Grosso University utilizing Leap for our own operation as well. Absolutely. So we're going to have more conversation on that. So stay tuned for 10 minutes of live Q&A. We appreciate your time. And as always at Grosso University, yes, you are a closer.